real estate industry has no barriers, right? We start when we want, we stop when we choose to. We can do whatever we want. Ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker, 19 years old, please help me welcome Jacob Blank to the stage.
Thank you. Yo, yo, yo. Can you hear me? What's up, everybody? How you doing, Milwaukee? First time out here. First time out here. I hear I should come back for Summerfest. Yeah? Is that pretty fun? So, first off, I want to ask you guys a few questions because I want to try to show you through my real estate journey how it's possible and what really made me successful, because I'm just like any of you in this room. And I was just a young high school kid when I got started. And so there was nothing special about me. There really wasn't any advantages that I had into getting into this. I had no real estate knowledge, and I just went for it. And so I want to see where some are at and what you're struggling with, and then hopefully through showing you my journey with pictures so you can actually see step by step where I went and what it looked like along the way, hopefully I can help you get rid of some of those bad habits or certain things that are holding you back. So raise your hand if you've done your first deal. All right, cool, we got a bunch of people. Now raise your hand if you feel like you're chasing after your first deal, but one of the things you're struggling with is staying consistent. Anybody struggle with staying consistent with real estate? You know, you're not gaining traction, and then you feel like, I'm going to take a break. You know, that's one of the main things that helped me be successful was staying consistent. So I'll get into that. But how many of you have been trying to get your first deal for more than 3 months? Anybody been trying for more than 3 months? Okay. All right, so let's get into it. So if you don't know who I am, I started my real estate at the age of 16. There's me on my floor getting band signs ready to put them out. I also printed out a bunch of flyers that said, you know, I'll buy your house for cash, as is, no closing costs. And I printed out like 1,000 of those. And I would drive around different neighborhoods. I mapped out all the pre-foreclosures, so that way I would be going to the good houses, and I would either knock on the door and give them it, or if they weren't home, I'd tape it to the door. I got nothing with that, got nothing with the bandit signs, and then I started cold calling. And that's really where I started to gain traction. There's me in my living room again, shirtless again. Why am I always shirtless at home? Like, what? But there's me cold calling, trying every single day for 5 hours straight. I'd sit and I'd cold call, and I'd try to get my first deal. And the reason I had so much time to do this was because I was doing online school. Midway through sophomore year, I got super sick, and I had to switch to online school. And so I had so much time. So I decided to, instead of play video games, instead of sit there and watch TV, I thought, you know what? I can make a whole life for myself in these last 2 years of high school. And I won't have to go to college. There's many different things that I wouldn't have to do if I just put in the work and made it happen. So there's me grinding away at the cold calls, and I started to get traction. I went on to some appointments, but I never got a contract signed. And I was cold calling myself for, you know, a couple months, and then I decided to hire a cold caller. There's me with one of my first cold callers, and that's really where I started to gain traction. So then, after 8 months, it took me 8 months to get my first deal. I finally closed that deal. About 6 months in, I did get a property under contract, my first deal under contract in Gilbert, Arizona, on a golf course. And it turns out there was a bunch of foundation issues that I didn't see. And my buyer told me it's not a deal. Little did I know, if I kept working on trying to sell that deal, I probably would have been able to sell it, and I would have made money on the deal. But I canceled the contract with the seller, and I felt like giving up. And that was after 6 months of working every single day as hard as possible to make this happen. And I gave up. I felt like giving up, but I didn't. I woke up the next day, got back to it. 2 months later, got this deal and made $30,000 on my very first wholesale deal. And there's me selling it. So as you can see, I'm walking you through like actually what happened through this journey. The next thing was I had $30,000. You know, raise your hand if you could spend $30,000 pretty stupid, and if you might, right? Who would take $30,000 and blow it? So that was a big thing that, that was probably one of the biggest battles that came up that luckily I got past, right? What 16-year-old gets $30,000 in his hands and spends it wisely? There were so many different things, but I reinvested every single penny back into my business because I knew it worked. I had the proof of concept now. The cold calling, boom, speak to the sellers, negotiate, close deal. Proof of concept that I have a pathway to deals. And so that's why I reinvested every penny. I knew if I put it back in, I'd get it back because I had that proof of concept. Shortly after, and then I started hiring sales guys. Didn't go well at first, obviously. All this stuff comes with trial and error, and it's all a process. But after due time, we started to scale. I got a huge team with me now. I got 7 sales guys in my office, a transaction coordinator. I moved into a new office, got a big office, and I started closing deals every single month. I started to gain traction. I've had a $106,000 week in my first full year in the business, and recently had a $354,000 month, and my biggest deal ever was $130,000. I never dreamed when I first got into this that I would be able to achieve numbers like this, and it's just the proof that anything is possible when you put your mind to it. So, thank you. So next, I needed to envision the goals. I needed to envision the office. I needed to envision what the numbers look like. I needed to envision what the team looks like, what the company culture looks like. I needed to set goals for myself. And so I went out at 16 years old. I looked at the car that I wanted to buy, and a year later, I was able to buy the car. And that's very important too. You need to visualize the goal. You need to visualize where you want to be, because it all comes down to that goal. And if it's not ingrained in your brain, then it's not real. You got to make it as real as possible in your mind before you start chasing after it. If you don't have that vision, you won't get very far. So I made sure I had that vision, and then I made sure that I did whatever it took to hit those goals. And then life started to look a lot different. If it wasn't for my mom, I wouldn't be here, wouldn't be able to do this. So I'm able to buy her amazing gifts, got a great team around me. And so, that goes back to my 3 main keys to success in real estate. And like I said, there was nothing special with me. So what made me successful was dedication first. And dedication is a promise to yourself that you're going to make it happen. You have to make that promise to yourself that you're going to do whatever it takes, no matter what, to make it happen. I've heard people up here say that I was willing to die for it, right? That was the only option. And that's really how it has to be. I swear, when I was starting to get into this, I was 16 years old, and I was so confident that I was going to make this happen, and I was so dedicated to make this happen. I had thoughts go through my mind. Do you really want to do this? Your whole life's going to change. You're not going to be a regular high schooler anymore. You're not going to live that regular life. No college. Are you sure? And it was like I had these thoughts like, do you really want to commit to it? Because I already knew it was going to happen, because I made that promise that I would be dedicated to it. And so the next thing is consistency. In real estate especially, and especially in wholesaling, but in any real estate, traditional real estate as a realtor, all of it, you got to be going after it every single day, knocking doors, making calls. You got to talk to people constantly, every single day, and you got to follow up. The moment you stop nurturing your pipeline, you're not going to have anything. The moment you stop bringing new leads into your pipeline, you're not going to have anything. You can't just work 1 week and think you're going to get a deal and then take a week off. And so for me, as a young kid, I didn't know what I was doing, but the one thing I had was I was willing to be consistent with it. And then work ethic, you get what you earn. I feel like a lot of people in this day and age are super, super lazy. And so what I did was I made it a goal to make sure I outwork everybody around me. Nobody's going to outwork me. And if you do, props to you, because you must be busting your ass. You must, because that's what I do is I work hard, and that's where the fruits and the success comes from. And then resourcefulness. When you're chasing after that first deal, there's so many different obstacles to pass. There's so many different challenges to get that deal if you even finally get it from open to close. I was just talking to Tony about this the other day, and he was like, a lot of the times when you mentor people and whatnot, they want to have their hand held the whole way. But that's not possible. There's not going to be anybody there to just hold your hand the whole way. So you have to be willing to make the call to whoever it is. Call the title company, call this person, call a random realtor, and ask questions and put the puzzle together. You got to be resourceful. And those are the 3 things that made me successful in real estate as a young kid, not knowing what I'm doing, So all 3 of those, if you just follow those and just figure it out, you will make it happen. So here's the ways that I can help you. On my YouTube channel, I post a bunch of YouTube videos every single week about how to get into this business, different marketing strategies, all of it. So check that out. And then if you want free contracts and scripts, go download them at my website. And then I just want to open this up to questions. So if you guys got any questions, free to raise your hand and we'll make it happen. Anybody got any questions? Yeah. Speak up so they can hear you. That I wish I knew? Yeah. One thing that I wish I knew was when I got my first deal. One thing I wish I knew is when I got that contract is to not listen to one buyer. Don't just listen to, even 2 buyers. Make sure you put that around to a lot of other people because, right, I could have had my first deal after only 6 months rather than 8, but I blew it because I listened to the one guy and could have sold it. So once you get your first deal, man, make sure you shop it around a bit more. Yep. Anyone else? Yep.
At 19 years old, you said right now you're 19?
Yep.
You have a team with you?
Yep.
Do you find it hard at 19 hiring people that more than likely are older than you, or are, if they're not,
Yeah.
but respecting you as a leader?
Yeah, so this was a big challenge when I first started hiring people. A lot of them would not take what I said and use it. They thought they had a better way. And I even hired some people that worked at a wholesale company before, and that's when it really got bad. But I just had to make it clear to them that I know what I'm doing. I've done deals, but at this point I was kind of just lying because I didn't. I'd done 1 deal. And I'm trying to tell them, I know what I'm doing, listen to me. But so I tried to just instill that in them that, have trust. I do works. They haven't done a deal on their own. But nowadays it's a lot easier. I hire people that are between the age of 19 to 23. And, so we're similar age, so it works well. And, but there's still that thing. First day when they come in, I make it clear, I built a multi-million-dollar business. Take what I say and use it word for word, and you're going to make money here. If you don't do what I say, you got to go. By the end of week 1, I need to be hearing the same things I'm telling you come out of your mouth word for word. And normally that gets them. So, but that was a huge thing. Yeah. Last year we did $2 million in revenue. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. What we got in the pipeline. So January, we did 324,000, and we got about 180,000 in the pipeline going into February. So we're shooting for another $300,000 a month. Yeah. Yeah. Say that again? Yeah, so I use cold callers at thecallgenius.com, and they're between $5 to $6 an hour. And then I also have cold callers in Mexico that I pay $3-4 an hour. Yep. Yeah.
So the next 5 years, where do you see yourself with your real estate career?
Yeah, so A lot of people ask me that question, and it's really tough to determine because at this age, I've been able to achieve heights that that were unimaginable. So it's a really tough question to answer. I hope I'm past $10 million in a year in revenue in the next 5 years, max. That's the plan with that. And I just want to build an amazing, happy, beautiful life for me and my family. Those are the 5-year goals. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, so, calling all the niche lists is good, right? But you got to remember that everybody else is calling the niche list. So a great niche list is absentee owners, right? With high equity absentee owners. That will always be an amazing list. But for me, what I mainly do, I do call all the niche lists. But my main thing is I do blanket marketing. I have 30 cold callers, and I pull millions of records in every single market I go into with like 3 years plus residents. So they've lived in the property for at least 3 years. So they've built up some equity. They haven't just moved into it. So they are possibly willing to move, stuff like that. And then I just call the whole market, everybody and their brother. And I just try to see, do you know somebody that wants to sell? If you don't, tell me somebody else, And so I just try to reach as many people as I possibly can. That's my strategy. Anybody else got some questions? Yep. Yeah, so my first employees were acquisition managers. So they did the sales calls on the leads that we got to try to find out if they really wanted to sell and then negotiate and get deals. Yep. Yeah, the cold inbound, like you're referring to, like bandit signs, like ads, like that. No, we're pretty much only doing outbound, and that's a great thing too. When you're starting out in this business, you don't want to be doing reactive marketing. You want to do proactive marketing. That was one of my mistakes in the beginning that I wasted a lot of time with. And for you that's 17, this is a good thing too. When I first started, I was doing a lot of reactive, the bandit signs, all that. But you got to be going after the prospects. You got to. And that's when everything changed. I started gaining traction, and I actually felt like I was getting closer to getting a deal. And that's also what helped me stay committed because I saw the traction starting to happen. But yeah. Yep. Yeah, so my why was my family. When I first got into this business, my family was going through a really hard time. My dad was in a lawsuit with his ex-business partner with a list pendants on a property that he was flipping. So my dad had been in real estate for a long time, since 2004, and as a realtor for most of his journey, and then he flipped some houses every year, and he was in a huge lawsuit. My whole family was messed up, and I thought, he'd never done wholesaling. I'm like, I could do this. And so I was like, this maybe could be a beacon of light for my family since we'd taken a bunch of financial hardship due to all that and a bunch of stress. And so I tried to build a light for my family through this. Yep. Yeah, so the markets I'm in Arizona mainly and Georgia mainly right now. For the majority of last year, we were in a lot more markets. We were in California, Texas, Florida, Georgia, Nevada, and Arizona last year. And going into this year, I decided to refocus a little bit on the markets where we were having the most success. After looking at all my KPIs and running all my numbers, I felt it would be more profitable to focus in on those two markets. We are still doing a little bit in California and a little bit in Texas. Yep. Oh, and then one more thing. You asked something else. Yeah, so last year I did 8 flips. Last year I did 0 flips. Last year I did 1 flip in January, and the year before that I did 8 flips. But this past year I didn't do any flips just because wholesaling has been so profitable and amazing. Yeah. So that's great that you like to foster good relationships. you know, a lot of people do no marketing and make, you know, multiple six figures a year just off relationships in this space. So that's amazing. And how could you build a relationship and how could you be useful to different wholesalers? So if a property is vacant in a market that we're not used to, or a state we're not in, we'll a lot of the times list it with a realtor. Another thing we do with realtors is whenever we have land, we list it with a realtor. And those are pretty much the two ways. You know, another way is, you know, to kind of start building those relationships and provide value to them, so they provide value back to you. Maybe some deals, maybe some connections, whatever it is, you know, a lot of us wholesalers want MLS access. And if you're able to, you know, obviously you don't want to give that out to a bunch of people, but if you're able to, you know, offer that MLS access to a couple big wholesalers, those could be great ways to build connections. Yep. Anyone else got anything? Yep. Uh-huh. Yeah. So some actionable steps to close a deal. What I would do to close my first deal is, first I would get a list. And you know, that absentee owner 50% equity and up list that I talked about a little bit earlier could be a great list to get started with. Or you could get a more broader list like I also talked about. First thing is you need data to market to. Now once you have that data, I recommend cold calling. And I recommend yourself at first. You'd want to get the Zen Call dialer. They just rebranded to Ready Mode, but you'd want to get that dialer. And the reason you want a dialer is because you can't just hand dial thousands of homeowners. Nobody's going to pick up. You're going to be wasting a bunch of time doing that. So you need to get a dialer. It calls thousands of homeowners at a time, and it feeds you the people that answer. So that way you're not sitting there for a bunch of time with dead air. And that way you'll be able to reach tons of homeowners. Now start getting on the phone, practice your skills, find people that are interested in selling and motivated in selling, and then further nurture those relationships with those people, follow up, and then contract them at a discounted price. And now the next thing would be you open that deal up at a title company, and then you try to sell the deal. And you use an assignment contract, you close that deal. So those are the steps that I would do. That's what we still do. That's what got me my first deal. That's the proof of concept that I have for a beginner getting started that works. Yep. Another one? Cool. A superpower. My superpower is probably the work ethic. Honestly, I'm always working. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so with ZenCall, I'm constantly changing it because especially I try to get a new one every year because for some reason it starts getting so laggy and stuff. But my main settings that I have for the speed that I keep when it's running normal is I just put it to 12 for each person max, and then I put the drop percentage at 4% on it. And then it dials fast, and we don't drop. You just want to make sure your drop doesn't get above 8 on drop calls. Yeah. Yeah, so for me, what I'm doing is I did do that for a bit, and I also bought this service that monitors your numbers and really shows you getting that, which carriers and all that. But I didn't learn too much from trying to figure that all out. So then I decided to go away from the 500 numbers. Now I'm doing 50 numbers on a weekly automated switch out. So ZenCall can set you up with that. You call them, they'll switch them out weekly. So that way they stay pretty fresh. Yeah. Yeah, I'd just alternate them. Yeah, and then they'll charge you, since you're in the 500 thing, they're probably charging you $1 a number. They'll keep that the same when you do 50 a week. Yeah. Yeah. My goal look like? Yeah. So I have an office in Scottsdale, Arizona. I have 7 salespeople in there, 1 transaction coordinator. I got my video guy that helps me out. And then I got a lot of people virtual. So I have 4 virtual assistants that are like managers of my cold callers and also help me out with a bunch of different tasks, a bunch of different like free marketing strategies too, like Zillow, Facebook, Craigslist, and then also help me out with social media. And then I have all my cold callers. That's what my team looks like. Done. One more. Say that again. What? Sorry. Oh no, once you get the dialer, you just put the data that you got in there and then get the cold callers to call on it or you call on it and it works right away. All right. One more. Yep.
What did your life look like between like 12 and 16? I mean, obviously you don't see many 16-year-olds like yourself.
Yeah.
Right?
That's
You got a young son, so I'm trying to steer in the right direction, right? Other than your father's financial struggles, was there anything else that kind of got the drive into you and kind of like, where did it all come from?
That's an amazing question. So it was just always in me. So, you know, I had like a burger job and that's it. That's the only real job, regular job I've had was at like this burger shop. And then what I was doing that had the hustle was I was flipping junk on OfferUp. You see a lot of that couch flipping stuff. I was flipping anything. So what I would do, and I actually built it and scaled it like between that period, the 12 to 16. And so I built it like an actual business and made it scalable. So what I did was I partnered with people. First, I sold everything in my house that my parents didn't want, and they gave me all the profit. Next thing I did, went to my grandma. What you got? Give me it all. I'm going to sell it.
Where did you see that? Internet? Is that what kind of...
No, I just came up with it. I mean, yeah, I did not see it on YouTube or anything. I just had stuff and sold it. And so then went to my grandma, got her stuff. She gave me like almost all the profit. She may have took a little bit on a few of them. And then she had a handyman that fixed up the whole neighborhood. And he had like the elderly people would always give him stuff. So his garage was full. He wanted to get rid of it. And I'm splitting everything I sold 50-50 with him. And then I'm reaching out to friends. All my friends got old toys that they don't want anymore, 50-50, selling it all for them. And that's how I acquired all the stuff. That's how I scaled it. And I made like $5,000-$6,000 doing that in that period of time. Yeah, thanks. Thanks. All right. All right, well, I think that's it. But thank you guys so much. And another event real soon, and I'll be back and excited to see you all again. Thank you.
Let's hear it for Jacob Blake, guys. 19 years old.